Good afternoon. The system that I've developed is entitled Angeles University Foundation College of Computer Studies Student Organization System. The following program illustrates the use of a number of C# components, namely a base class called Organization and 3 other classes which are stored in a class library or DLLs. So, as the slide would show, there is the HONSOC class library, the iFunding library, the JPCS library, the organization library, and the Windows application which is called PGUI library. All of these are stored in a class library or DLL. It is to be noted that the organization class is the base class. Now, there's also an interface named iFunding, which was used to force functionality for setting attribute values for classes that utilize them. Also, it is to be noted that objects are not instantiated directly from the organization class. Instead, they are instantiated from the HONSOC and JPCS class libraries. Now, in order to test the design, a Windows Form application was developed in order to demonstrate how the objects are instantiated from the class libraries, and that it would show how the data members would be accessed from each of the objects that were instantiated. Now, to give a list of items for the class libraries, we have the following. The first is the organization base class. Next is the budget interface class. Then we have the HONSOC class and the JPCS class. And finally, we have the GUI Windows application class. All of these were stored in one solution called finalproject.sln. Now, I would discuss the series of steps that were followed in developing the system. Step 1 would be the creation of the organization base class, which is shown in the slide. The data members for the following class would consist of the organization name, represented by org name, the primary contact for the organization, and the funded amount. This DLL was developed so that other succeeding classes, that is the HONSOC and the JPCS class, can make reference to it during design. So it was the first class that was created for the system. Step 2 would be the creation of the HONSOC class. This would represent student organizations for non-mandated organizations. For non-mandated organizations, it is a fact that such orgs would not receive funding from the university. And therefore, in this particular case, funding would not be a reference for the following class. Now, there could be other data members that could be included for the following class, and subsequently, objects that would be instantiated from this particular class would follow the blueprint that such class would provide, and therefore all non-mandated organizations would have data members that are common to them. One peculiarity of it would be that they don't have funding from the university. Let's have step 3. The step 3 would be the JPCS class, which instantiates objects for mandated organizations. it references both the organization and budget interface classes, since such organizations would be granted budget by the university. Next would be the budget interface class named iFunding. It contains a method called set funding amount, which is provided for any of the classes that would reference this one. Classes that would implement this would need to provide the necessary body for the method, and that after this DLL is built, the subclasses can make reference to it. And therefore, only those mandated organizations which would actually have budget from the university would make reference to this particular class. Finally, the last class, which is a Windows application, was developed to test the components. Two objects of type non-mandated and mandated organizations were instantiated when the form was loaded. In this particular slide, corresponding values were assigned directly for each of the objects, and the GUI lets the user select any of the two types, that is non-mandated or non-mandated organization, and that appropriate object data set are displayed accordingly. That's it. Thank you and good day.